The following few questions pertain to some prominent unexplained disappearances. Could you please locate Crater Lake, a caldera lake in south central Oregon in the USA?
Give us the location again.
Crater Lake in south central Oregon, United States.
And the question?
A young man disappeared here in 1975. His remains were found 1 year later, on October 14, 1976, in the area of Bybee Creek drainage, 4 miles from Lightning Springs. Could you please attempt to locate Charles McCullough, who passed away at this site around late January of 1975 at age 19 or 20?
We have the pattern of the entity, although vaguely.
Thank you. Could you please briefly describe what happened to him to cause his passing?
Disorientation seems to be in his mind at the last. There's a state of panic here. The entity is running. He seems to have been chased by some animals, or humanoid-looking animals. The entity is in a state of panic. Ran off the edge of a embankment, and the entity seems to have drowned, although we see him being somewhat pummeled or here examined by these animals. Left looks like they stepped on him or hit him, left him behind. The entity's remains a little tattered. We see lots of stones around. This was also part of the difficulty. However, the entity in the end would be in a state of panic, running in fear to such a point that the body fell on the rocks from a fairly large height, and there seems to be water nearby, causing the entity to enter into the water. Direction.
Thank you. Briefly, how did he come to be found 14 miles from where he was last sighted in deep snow and harsh conditions?
The entity's reason for being in the area was different than suspected. The entity was looking for unusual creatures, and the entity was also taking into the regions the beauty or the unusual terrain. Became disoriented, and as we have given, somewhat in a state of panic or crisis at the end of the life, you'll see. The entity was not thinking correctly and was moving through all sorts of terrain as we see it, at speed. Direction.
Thank you. Some of his remains were found scattered. His jeans, socks with toe bones inside, bone fragments from the crown of his skull 12 feet away. His jeans were unbuttoned, no shirt, coat, or boots were found. Briefly, what caused his remains to be situated this way?
As we have given, the animals were stepping on him or pummeling him, you'll say. Beaten. The bones were broken and scattered here. Stones about. We've given this, see? Direction.
Thank you. Local American Indians consider Crater Lake to be a sacred site, and there have been other strange incidents and disappearances associated with this location. Are there any paranormal phenomena influencing the deaths and disappearances here?
Just the animals themselves that are very large, and they would roam the area. They are much fewer than they used to be, you'll see. They are, as we've given, somewhat humanoid shaped, you'll say. The territory can be considered sacred, for it was a place in which, from antiquity, the animals would have been in their docile, and indeed they were isolated, and in such somewhat of a taboo for other races of people in the area to visit the place because of a reserve or sanctuary for these animals, you'll say. Therefore, entering the same would be like moving into a wild game reserve even now. There would be the danger of the animals in their environment attacking human, you'll say. And for some reason or some purpose, this was a home or a reserve for these animals or beasts as we have given. Times have changed since that time, and as such, there are remnants now. But they would suffer the same fate of being pulled apart or beaten or pummeled or trampled, you'll say. Well, these are large creatures. Direction.
Thank you. Could you now please locate Mount Shasta at the southern end of the Cascade Range in Siskiyou County in California?
Yes, we have the place.
Thank you. A man named Carl Landers was planning to climb Mount Shasta with 2 other people. He disappeared on May 22, 1999, near Lake Helen in this area. Could you please attempt to locate him? Carl Herbert Landers, age 69, born August 26, 1929, lived in Orinda, California in the United States.
We have a crevasse in the earth itself, opened, and he fell in. The crevasse has shrunken or collapsed on itself, and the entity is trapped in this space between the 2 walls of earth. It appeared that he was walking along, and the crevasse was somewhat opened at the time, which he fell in, a crack in the ground, lost his balance. Actually, there were 2, one on each side of the land he was traveling on. The pathway became very narrow, and he slipped, and it looks like he tumbled into the crevasse. The body is lodged between the walls of the same, and is very much deteriorated at this point. It is as if the earth opened up, he fell in, it closed up again behind him. We have no landmarks here, although we have some trees, and we have some purple colors of rocks, or rosy purple color. But we don't have the location, direction.
Thank you. He had claimed to be feeling poorly that day. Briefly, what was wrong with him?
A little bit of difficulty if the entity was suffering from an aneurysm in the brain. There were feelings of disorientation, and the brain was not thinking correctly due to the influences here as we have given. The entity was not eating properly as well, and there seemed to be a little digestive and elimination irritation as well, as if he had the flu. However, the entity does seem to be disoriented, and as we watch him, he does some things with he is doing some things with his pack here, or some belongings, putting stones in the same, attempting to make himself comfortable when he lays down. difficult here. The entity is fatigued, and vertigo, or the feeling of imbalance, is taking place here as we see it. Direction, time is getting short here.
Thank you. Could you please locate the Great Smoky Mountains National Park on the Tennessee and North Carolina border in the United States?
Location again? Or the name?
Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Yes, we have the place,
Thank
region.
you. And could you please locate Spence Field in the park near the Appalachian Trail?
We have this place.
Thank you. Please attempt to locate a boy named Dennis Martin, age 6, who disappeared here on June 14th, 1969. His family lived in Knoxville, Tennessee at the time.
Give us the name again.
Dennis Martin, age 6.
Last appearance.
This would be Spence Field within Great Smoky Mountains National Park, June 14th, 1969.
Yes, we have a scene where the child was here sitting on a rock, a small meadow, and a bear came and attacked him. Direction.
Thank you. So this was the cause of his disappearance.
As of the same, he was ingested.
Thank you. The number of missing persons per year in the United States has skyrocketed to about 2,300 persons per day. Books have been written about disappearances, and if one were to graph them on a map, one finds clusters of missing persons in some non-populated areas such as national parks. Many go missing because of mundane reasons such as runaways, kidnappings, homicides, suicides, those with extreme psychological disorders. In other words, human-influenced or caused. If you were to disregard the aforementioned cases, briefly, what are the most prominent other causes for missing persons?
Give us the last part of the direction again.
If you were to disregard the aforementioned cases of human influence missings, briefly, what are the most prominent other causes for missing persons?
Those that would be abducted by military means, those that would be taken for their knowledge or inference in military or political reasons, they are abducted or they are eliminated. There are other more unique disappearances, but here it is a variety of those being taken and put in chambers to work as slaves by those who are perverted, or here those who have decided to take onto themselves the innocence, those parental influences, parents taking children even to their demise. And there are other influences of which you wish us to address, as to that of disappearances by those crafts that would come through the water and the air and space. Some of these are temporal, and some of them are permanent. But you have put us into a situation of many minds and attempting to evaluate the actions of many. Difficult to do, you'll say. Where the disappearance causes us to observe those who are in states of terror, and to those minds that are devious. We cannot evaluate or give you an order or a larger amount because of the pain. But these would be some of the reasons that are known already. Direction.
Thank you. Regarding paranormal explanations for disappearances like UFO abduction, Sasquatch activity, any kind of dimensional shifts, about what percentage of missing persons go missing because of these and other paranormal reasons?
It would be a little more than 7%. Could be as high as 12 on occasion, especially when there is hot weather. Speaking on an annual general basis, you'll say. From spontaneous combustion to ascensions to disappearances where the soul simply leave the body and the body is discarded, to consumptions of animals and to very weird individuals practicing slavery and sacrifice. These are lumped in, could be a little higher than the 12 to 13%. On occasion, it is inconsistent. But here, better to look at it as a regular basis, about 3 to 7%. See, direction.
Thank you. Could you please briefly describe the most common reasons, if any, for disappearances caused by supernatural or paranormal reasons?
Look at this as, for the very unusual, about 1%, perhaps as many as 3. Direction.
Thank you. The question is, could you describe the most common reasons for disappearances caused by supernatural or paranormal reasons, if there are any?
This conditional as to the minds of those who are involved, whether they are in groups or in individuals, whether their activities have led them to place themselves in jeopardy, being in remote locations at dangerous times, and putting themselves in the hands of others who are unscrupulous. The evaluation is endless here because of the conditions of those who put themselves in such jeopardy. There is no simple or easy reason for anyone being in the same place at the same time, let alone putting themselves at jeopardy at the same time. But they do. This is evident. Why remains to be seen. Direction, you say.
Thank you. We finished for the moment.